Welcome to the Daily Vibecasting. Today we're analyzing a frankly contentious $200 billion claim of government waste, apparently halted by transparency protocols, somehow linked to DOGE. We're also digging into why the whole concept of AGI is already being called outdated by people at the very top. And we're breaking down the blueprint for an AI factory that literally codes apps while its owner is asleep. A massive disruption wave is hitting niche software right now. So we're here to unpack the raw newswire from the day's top trends. We're going from macro finance straight to the absolute bleeding edge of AI. Our mission is to challenge that consensus, figure out who's winning, and, maybe more importantly, who's getting obsoleted by these radical shifts.
The time frame for what's considered a disruptive event, it's just shrinking. If you look away for a couple of days, you've missed a major infrastructure build or a whole philosophical shift in AI. But we have to start with the highest stakes claim, the one that's, frankly, the most volatile, and that lands us right in macro finance.
Okay, let's just get right into it. This $200 billion claim, it's coming from a December interview clip with Elon Musk, featured by @ElonClipsX. And the assertion is it's staggering that a push for basic transparency tied to DOGE somehow helps stop between $1 and $200 billion a year in so-called
zombie payments. That's the term he used.
Right, zombie payments.
And what he means by that is just unauthorized or, outdated federal payments, money just going out the door. His claim is that by simply requiring basic payment codes, just explanations within Treasury systems, they address something like 2 to 3% of government payments that just shouldn't have been happening.
$200 billion is not just a rounding error, though. If that's true, it points to a fundamental failure of oversight. That's larger than the entire GDP of many countries. It's so basic that it's almost embarrassing.
Yeah.
But this is where we have to be skeptical, right? This is a highly volatile number.
You are absolutely right to question it. The volatility is key. This figure, it lacks any independent verification. We haven't seen the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, or anyone nonpartisan confirm these specific savings.
So the idea is sound, but the number is speculative.
The number introduces a massive element of political spin, so you have to be critical of the source, absolutely.
So if the solution, just simple payment codes, was that obvious, what does that tell you about the institutions themselves? This brings up the bigger question for me. If a push for transparency can force that kind of reform, what does that say about the state of federal bureaucracy?
It says the friction isn't technical, it's institutional, it's just opacity. Musk even mentioned the huge resistance to such basic reforms.
Even though it benefits the taxpayer.
Right. And you have to ask, if these simple codes weren't there, who was benefiting from that lack of visibility? It creates an environment where waste isn't an accident. It's a feature of a system that resists being upgraded. The real disruptor here is the idea of simple, enforced transparency.
The cost of friction.
The cost of bureaucratic friction, measured in hundreds of billions.
That's a powerful connection. And it takes us perfectly from the friction of macro finance to its technological opposite, radical, almost frictionless acceleration. This next piece is just about pure speed.
We're moving at the speed of silicon, and the old timelines are they're broken.
There's a post from @XFreeze, and it's quoting NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang. He's praising xAI and Elon Musk for putting together the 100,000 GPU Colossus supercomputer cluster.
And what's really fascinating here isn't just the scale, it's the speed. This colossal system, all for AI training using the most powerful H100 GPUs. They assembled it and got it operational in just 19 days.
19
days. Now, for anyone listening who operates in the real world, planning, procurement, and building out a comparable system, you're thinking about power, cooling, real estate.
That's a multi-year project. 3-4 years, typically.
3 to 4 years versus 19 days. That difference in time to compute means one company, xAI, is operating on a timescale that lets them advance their models exponentially before their competitors have even poured the concrete.
It's a totally different class of competition.
And that raw hardware speed, it's forcing a philosophical reckoning across the industry, which brings us to the conversation around general intelligence itself.
Right, so we connect that raw speed to this shift in thinking. A post from @SlowDeveloper quotes Anthropic's president, Daniela Emma Day, and she just flat out calls AGI an outdated concept.
And it sounds strange, doesn't it? Why outdated?
Well, it's because AGI implies this sort of slow, steady march toward human-like reasoning. But what we're actually seeing is its progress, but it's rapid and deeply uneven. It's a
Laugh
paradox.
with a paradox.
Amode pointed out that Claude, their big model, can code as well as some of their own top engineers. That is a world-class but very narrow skill.
That's a but. But that same system fails at basic human things. Intuitive reasoning, social context, simple real-world physics. So we've achieved this hyper-efficiency in specific areas, but the models are still very brittle when you take them into a new situation.
So the industry is realizing they don't actually need to build a generalized human brain to get maximum utility.
Exactly. The debate is shifting away from consciousness and toward what they're calling agentic AGI, AI designed for tool use and task execution. The thinking is that these agentic systems can tackle 99% of white-collar work without ever needing to be a good poet. It's about function, not philosophy.
And that functional integration is already destroying business models. This takes us right to that disruption wave we mentioned at the top, the AI factory.
Yeah, the shift from philosophical debate to immediate overnight operational disruption.
So let's talk about this AI factory concept. It's from a post by @BenjaminDeCar, who's a former ex-AI engineer. This is the practical application of that agentic AGI idea.
DeCraker didn't just automate one thing. He built a whole automated assembly line powered by Claude Opus 4.5 agents.
An assembly line. What does that look like for software?
It's ruthlessly systematic. He uses a Kanban system. So you have columns, idea, then research, then architecture, then coding, and finally testing.
And the AI agents are just moving the project along that board on their own?
Precisely. He's claiming it enables overnight progress. You can have multiple specialized software projects being built simultaneously while you're asleep. I mean, think about wrestling with a small feature for 2 weeks. This system prototypes it in 24 hours.
And just so our listeners understand, this is being done without, hiring a huge team or buying a data center. It's running on a high-tier subscription to a commercial LLM.
Exactly. And he even built in APIs for real-time market validation. It's basically software production as a commodity.
So if that's the creation side, what's the destructive side of that efficiency? Because when an agent can manipulate data like that, it starts eating other companies' lunch.
It's pure consolidation, and the speed is shocking. Look at the post from @SimplifyingAI. It highlights the destructive force of Anthropic's new features. Claude can now create and edit Excel sheets, PowerPoints, and PDFs, all in the browser from simple prompts.
So I don't need to export data, use some third-party conversion tool, or wrestle with an API chain anymore.
You do not. And that single feature update, it's a perfect example of a second-order effect that just obsoletes entire software categories. It immediately disrupts and potentially kills hundreds of niche AI tools and startups that were just API wrappers for file formatting.
Why is that so destructive? The browser-based editing.
Because it kills complexity. Those smaller tools made you manage API keys, deal with integrations, all just to move data around. By putting it all into one general-purpose interface, Anthropic removes that entire layer of friction. That middle layer of specialized single-purpose apps, suddenly irrelevant.
The bar has been raised.
But the bar is now. If your startup exists just to solve a problem that an LLM can now do with one prompt, you're not competing anymore, you're being obsoleted.
A tough analysis, but a necessary one. Okay, let's shift gears. Let's look at how advanced analytics are hitting digital markets and how tech is getting adopted in some tough regulatory places. We can start with prediction markets.
Yeah, this is a fantastic example of using high-end data science, specifically graph theory, to see what's really happening in a market.
The post spotlights work from @ColdVisionXYZ, and it was featured by @JempChangeled. They used Louvain clustering and Jacquard similarity, pretty sophisticated math, on the top 300 wallets on Polymarket. That's a market worth over $10 billion.
Right, so for anyone who needs a quick primer, Louvain clustering finds little communities in a big network. It groups wallets that act alike. Jacquard similarity measures how often two wallets make the exact same trades.
So they were basically hunting for collusion.
Exactly. And the visualization they produced showed this small, isolated cyan cluster of 9 wallets. They had 60% synchronized trades. And they were operating completely separate from the main organic trading swarm.
Suggesting a coordinated strategy.
A highly organized one. It challenges that whole idea of decentralized, individual traders. It looks more like sophisticated groups trying to manipulate outcomes.
A huge insight. Now let's broaden out to global adoption, specifically autonomous vehicles in Europe. which is a notoriously tough place for that technology.
Right. The post from Atten67 highlights some major media exposure for Tesla FSD in Europe, and that's a huge deal for public acceptance.
It was on Italy's top national news program, TG1. That's a show with over 5 million viewers. They showed a positive hands-off test drive in a city and on a highway. Given how skeptical Europe is, that kind of positive coverage is really significant.
It is, but you have to see the tension there. Tesla is pushing its claim of being 5 times safer than a human, based on over 1 billion FSD miles. But European regulators are still really cautious. A positive TV spot helps soften public opinion, which can lead to political change, but the regulatory friction is still huge.
Right. From the highway to the handheld, let's touch quickly on consumer tech. The mobile gaming market is massive, $173 billion globally. Post 6 introduces the 8BitDo flip pad.
Yeah, at 8BitDo is known for quality retro gear, and they announced this flip pad. It's a portable, Apple-certified clamshell controller. The form factor is great, people are excited.
But you see a flaw in its viability here.
I do. It highlights the split between design and actual utility. The mobile market moves fast, but sometimes they overlook basic user needs. User feedback immediately flagged that it uses a hard USB-C connection, which could strain the port on your phone during intense gaming.
And the bigger issue.
The killer flaw seems to be the lack of analog sticks or shoulder buttons. That severely limits its use for the action-heavy games that drive that $173 billion market. It's a beautiful design that misses the core function of what it's for.
Utility over aesthetics. Again. All right, finally, let's look at the platform where all this news is breaking. A post from @DOGE announces X's enhanced real-time global trending feature.
It seems like a minor update, but it's strategically crucial. In a world with fragmented feeds for everything, better content discovery helps X become that single, unified, global newsfeed.
And why does that matter to our listener who's tracking this acceleration and disruption?
Because it means the next major breakthrough, the next AI factory concept, or the next financial crisis is more likely to break there first. The filter reduces the friction of finding high-signal content across the globe. It accelerates the spread of ideas.
So let's synthesize. Today was really defined by the shrinking timescale of innovation. A 19-day supercomputer build versus the usual 3 to 4 years.
Right.
And we saw that speed has direct consequences. From a contested $200 billion in government savings to the instant obsoleting of all those niche AI apps. The friction is all external now, bureaucracy, regulation. The acceleration is all internal, the code and the clusters.
The age of monolithic software is officially ending. The age of the highly functional, integrated, general-purpose agent is here, and it's consuming its predecessors by just eliminating that whole middle layer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So based on that AI automation trend, the efficiency of the AI factory and the file killer capabilities of Claude, here is our provocative prediction for tomorrow. We predict that a major established software vendor, someone specializing in light-duty sauce productivity tools, not Anthropic or Google, will announce a radical internal restructuring. They'll cite the consolidation of core features by general-purpose LLMs this reason, and it'll signal the next non-obvious wave of layoffs hitting the people who manage those now redundant API tools.
We'll be watching for the phrase strategic realignment in those disclosures.
Apply these insights to your day, and we'll see you tomorrow for the next Daily Vibecasting.